The first thing that's clear is that if you go on a severe calorie-restricted diet, then you will lose weight. There's no question about that. Though how much weight you will lose will vary from individual to individual. The real problem comes in maintaining that weight loss over the long term. Again, we talked about the defense of body weight, or the defense of the set point. And it's the case that when people go off a diet, they will tend to return to their normal weight, but in many cases they will overshoot and they will exceed their original body weight. So what we see is a phenomenon that's sometimes called yo-yo dieting, in that individuals who worry about their body weight and go on calorie restriction diets will lose weight, then rebound and exceed their weight, and they'll do that repeatedly, and over time they will gain more and more weight. And this is actually very worrying. What we know from large studies of adolescents in the United States is that one of the best predictors of weight gain in the long run is actually participation in weight loss programs. In other words, it looks as though in fact, so far from being a long-term solution for many individuals, possibly most individuals, it's actually counterproductive. And this type of calorie restriction diet, if it's repeated, will actually have a very poor outcome. So certainly we know that of those that are on diets, and even on successful diets, even for prolonged periods, if you look at them 1 year, 2 years later, the great majority of those will be back at their original weight, if not higher. It's possibly one of the kind of common myths. Of course, when you see individuals who are kind of marathon runners who take a lot of exercise, they're usually very thin. But if you're looking at this as a kind of way of losing weight, there are lots of problems with this. The first problem that you encounter is that when you go out and exercise, it tends to stimulate appetite. And so the weight loss that you might expect from the exercise tends not to be as great as you'd hope for. And indeed, often people actually put on weight when they start exercising more. Now, that's not necessarily bad. I mean, exercise has got lots of other good positive effects. It's got very good effects on the heart. And often the weight that you put on with exercise may be muscle, it may be kind of a healthy weight gain, if you like, rather than putting on fat. But again, it's got some downside in the long term. If you don't maintain that exercise, and if you don't maintain the energy expenditure during that exercise, what will tend to happen is that when you stop that level of exercise, that muscle weight gain turns into fat. And it also, maintaining that exercise also becomes more and more difficult as you get older, for all kinds of reasons. That other demands on our life as we get older mean that we're not so able to carry out regular exercise. It's difficult to maintain that level over a long run. So again, you've got that pattern of weight gain that you've put on as muscle turning into fat when you stop exercising. It's also very difficult to kind of see this as an effective intervention for people that are really obese. They have particular problems in exercising for lots of reasons. For a start, I mean, the strain on your joints when you're overweight is considerable, and so you have problems of arthritis, knee problems if you get people to exercise, and it's a strain on the heart as well. So looking at exercise as an effective intervention for solving obesity is difficult. Of course, it might be part of an answer, but it's not so simple. The history of drug interventions or pharmacological interventions is one of success and failure. In fact, we know of many drugs that have been developed that are actually very effective in causing weight loss. So the problem is not that we can't find drugs that are effective, it's that we can't find drugs that are effective that don't have significant side effects or other problems. And one of the fundamental difficulties is that the drugs that are effective at inducing weight loss act on the brain, act on the circuits in the brain. And one of the problems there is that those brain circuits are involved in many other things other than maintaining our body weight. And the problem is that again and again, the drugs that are developed that are effective in reducing our appetite unfortunately have effects on other body systems like reproductive systems and systems that regulate our heart and other aspects of our physiology. So the problem is that drugs are effective when they act on the brain, but they have other side effects. The outlook for cures for obesity in many ways is black, as I said. That we know that diets are very ineffective. We know that we really don't have any drugs that are really effective and that patients are willing to take for prolonged periods. We know that exercise isn't really an effective solution for most people. However, the only bright spot, if you like, is that bariatric surgery is very, very effective in inducing sustained weight loss in most of the patients that have undergone through that. Something like 85% of the patients will maintain a stable, healthy body weight for a prolonged period after bariatric surgery. So we have something that works. The interesting thing is that we don't really know why it works or how it works. When bariatric surgery was first introduced, it was thought that it would work by reducing the amount of energy that we can harvest from the food that we take in, by reducing absorption in the gut. Well, actually, we know that that really isn't how it works at the moment. Instead, it seems to be that after bariatric surgery, the patients who've gone through that simply don't get as hungry as they did before that surgery. So why don't they get as hungry? That we don't understand. It looks as though that they're missing some of the signals that come from the gut to the brain that drive hunger. But what are those signals that are lost? Well, we don't fully understand that. We do know that a lot of signals come from the gut to the brain to drive hunger and to increase or limit the amount of energy that we take in. And those signals are very complex. Some are carried by nerves, some are carried by hormones, and there's something that is different in the patient after bariatric surgery that stops them becoming hungry in the way that we'd expect them to be. But what is different, we still don't know.